Chase Thomas podcast. My nephew needs me to record. See, I already hate it. I hate it.
All right, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Chase Thomas podcast from still the aforementioned Chase Thomas coming to you live from Knoxville, Tennessee, Everything School HQ. Joining me down there in Tequila, Georgia, my good friend, fellow University of North Georgia alumni, and the host of Georgia Voice of College Football. It's Matt Green. Matt, good evening, sir. How are you?
Good evening, sir. It is good to be back with you. I was almost up near your neck of the woods this weekend. Had a wedding in LJ, so little North Georgia mountains action. So it was good stuff.
Well, when you take the back way home, my parents are in the north, like your old stomping grounds over there in North Gwinnett area,
Oh, nice.
Johns Creek and all that. But yeah, if you take the scenic route, you go through LJ. So apple picking country. I don't know if that's
Apparently, yeah, apple orchard stuff everywhere. I noticed that.
Yeah. How was it? Fun weekend? I went to a wedding on Saturday as well.
Oh, nice. Yeah, good stuff. It was a cool venue. Good views. It was good stuff. Congrats to the happy couple.
Were you in it?
I was in the wedding. Yeah, I was one of the groomsmen.
Okay. Good
times. Childhood friend got married, so it's good stuff.
There you go. Well, Matt Green, as you know, and as our listeners know, we took the week off, first week off from the pod in a long time, but wanted to get my bearings with the daily radio show over there on Fox Sports Knoxville and Fan Run Radio, and just to see how things work. And now I got a good feel and good balance. I know what I'm doing now this week. I got my bearings and how to allocate my time, I think, and how we're going to make this all work and all that good stuff. But I'm glad to be back and talking college football as a whole here with you, Matt Green, because Tennessee baseball got eliminated today from the Super Regionals against Arkansas. So it's officially football time here in East Tennessee. And it's been football time for a week longer in Athens, Georgia, after the Dogs got eliminated to Chipper Jones. Not dismay, happiness over the Dogs getting bounced.
Chipper Jones is a Gator, but
well, hold on, he wasn't a fan. He was going out. I think it was the Gators. I think it was Georgia and all that. I think Chipper was in the.
I don't even know what he said.
It was a tweet that a lot of folks ran with, and there were some Tennessee fans who thought he may have been subtweeting Tennessee, but it's also like Tennessee hasn't been that team this year, so it didn't really make any sense for him to be talking about Tennessee. But yeah, you'd have to go back. I don't have the tweet in front of me, but yeah, he was battling all the different college baseball teams about like who he was referring to, because I don't think he originally in the tweet called anybody out specifically. So there was a lot of assuming going on, and then I think he actually clarified with some of the teams he was talking about. But yeah, as you and I can both agree, Georgia baseball they don't play the game the right way. They got a little bit too big for their britches, as you know, and were bounced at home in the regional. And yeah, it's just the way it is. Tennessee, the lone team to go to 5 straight supers in the SEC. Matt Green.
Yeah, what can you do? They're pretty good at everything, school up there. So it's they were bound to win one at some point, but now they went back down to just pretty good. Where they usually belong.
Great stuff. Thanks for that, Matt Green. Well, here on A Pod Divided, as you know, sir, we start everything off talking Dogs and Vols before diving into some college football. It's preview mag season. I know Athlon Sports is out right now, so we'll have go pick that one up if you're not already early on, and then we'll have Phil Steele coming on in the next. I don't know when it's officially his drop, but I know they're only in Barnes and Noble, so I'm excited to make that pilgrimage to pick up his annual as well. But yeah, it's a great time of year. College football will be here before you know it, Matt Green. But I thought this would be an interesting kind of subject matter between Georgia and Tennessee, sir. And for the Georgia side, contract year Georgia player you're most intrigued by. And what I mean by contract year is if not even just that they're out of eligibility after this year, but someone you look at this roster and you're like, all right, even if they have another year, whatever, like I just don't see them back. I see them either going to the draft if all things go well, but if they don't go well, then I see them entering the portal because of the talent behind them or what have you. So your contract player of the year, because it's big in a lot of sports. Guys have big contract years and get paid when they have that kind of hot run at the right time. So who for the Dogs do you think is you're most intrigued by in their contract year for Georgia? Because you feel like this is it.
Well, it feels like this could be an answer for like almost half of the players on the offense. Like for one, the offensive line, some of those guys underachieved a year ago, and so they need to step up. Although Monroe Freeling, I think, has 2 years of eligibility left, something like that. But all of these transfers are coming in. It's like it feels like they came in to Georgia because it is their contract year. Like they want to go to one of the teams. It's going to be on the national stage, all these big games, and Noah Thomas or Zachariah Branch or, you name it. Like, I think a lot of these guys are in, especially Colby Young, a lot of these guys are in a contract year. Like, this is the year that they're going to produce on offense. And Gunnar Stockton, obviously, too. He's got, I think, 2 years left if he wanted to stay. But he's obviously a candidate for that. But so it's hard to pick. Even Josh McCray coming from Illinois, he wants to have one last good year before he tries to get to the NFL. But because so many of those guys are transfers, I feel like it's kind of easy to say because those are the kind of rent a player kind of short-term deals. Like they're supposed to win now, right? I feel like Christian Miller is the guy on defense that I would name because I feel like as a Georgia fan, I feel like most Georgia fans feel like they know how good Christian Miller is. He's big time recruit. There's been buzz about him every single spring. And then, he was on a deep defensive line when he first got to Athens, didn't really get on the field much, but didn't play many games in 2023. Last year was definitely his best season. But I mean, 1.5 sacks, 1 sack as a 1 sack as a freshman, 1.5 as a sophomore. Like, I feel like he's a guy that he's still waiting for that breakout year, and he's kind of flirted with the transfer portal. Maybe he was going to go pro this year because he feels like a guy who's got that athletic upside. I kind of want to said the same thing about Terrion Ingram Dawkins a year ago. Like, I was kind of hoping both of those guys would come back and kind of have their best year yet. But Christian Miller feels like one of those who's yet to kind of put it all together. And he feels like he's a candidate that, I mean, he has a big time year. He's a first round pick, but he's definitely not proven that to this point at Georgia, even though he's got a lot of talent.
And he missed the spring game, right? Didn't he have offseason surgery or something?
I'm not 100% sure on that, but you could be right.
And that's a really young room at that point, right? Because you're really loaded behind him. Like, he's kind of that holdover because you have, let's see here. Yeah, Elijah Griffin, Jordan Hall, Xavier McLeod, and then in the nose tackle. So, yeah, you have Ogboko, Nazir Johnson. I mean, there's not many. I think he's the lone interior guy, unless I'm missing somebody in that Georgia defensive line, right?
In terms of with experience?
Yeah, I mean, he's the only junior. I don't see another upperclassman here.
Xavier McLeod, I thought, is a senior, right? He was the South Carolina transfer.
Sophomore.
This year?
Yeah, I think so.
I thought he was older than that, but I don't know how many years he was at South
that would
Carolina.
Be 3 years. I mean, if he's a redshirt sophomore, he's like, that's 3 years. So
but yeah, he was a guy who played well down the stretch last year. So I think McLeod is one of those with some experience. Because, yeah, Jordan Hall's another one. I just think Jordan Hall, he was a 5-star, but you don't know how good Jordan Hall even is to this point. Like, he's gotten on the field that little. So you like to think he's one of those guys that's a 5-star defensive lineman, and that's what Georgia's going to plug in. But after 2 years on campus without really seeing the field, you can't really truly say what he is. I feel like Christian Miller, it's like you've seen enough flashes to know, like, this guy's got talent, he's got ability. Now he just needs to put it all together for a whole season and be a disruptive defensive lineman.
Can I throw another name? And it's actually another defensive guy.
Yeah.
I think it's the other corner opposite of Dalen Everett, Daniel Harris, because you have Ellis Robinson and DeMello Jones, and then Jonte Gilbert. Lot of blue chip talent behind him. And it was really shaky across from Everett this past year that I just feel like it's hard to see him stay on this roster next year because there's just too much talent behind him. Like, Georgia's going to be ready to move up. Like, they kind of recruited over him, and I just feel like it's a huge year for him. And if he has a great year, he'd get drafted, right? Like, you can, he could parlay a big year opposite of Everett, but I feel like it's a big year for him because I just feel like he's either portaling or going to the NFL draft.
I would probably say, I guess just my interpretation of the question, it feels like a big contract year for Everett because as he kind of had his games against Texas where he was a baller. Like, he just took over 2 games against Texas. but he was a guy, you look at a lot of the big plays Georgia's giving up in the pass game, and Dalen Everett lots of times was the one giving it up. So that doesn't mean, I'm a fan. That doesn't mean he's always doing something wrong, but whatever the reason may be, he wasn't exactly a lockdown corner. I think he had his moments where, he could look like a big time NFL pick, but I think he's the one that could solidify himself as like a first rounder. So that if he has a great year this year, and truly get paid, but I think there's a lot of confidence simply because he's like the most senior, like probably well-known player on the whole defense. But I don't know if he's truly that star, because I don't know this team has that star this year. But in terms of what you're saying about the opposite corner, Dalen Everett missed spring this year, so it was kind of solid for just competition standpoint. And according to everybody, Daniel Harris was the best corner out there. So I think he had a great spring from what everyone says. Dude is just a ridiculous athlete, like 6'3", almost 6'4" or something, just 200 pounds. Like he is they don't make a lot of corners built like that. So if he has a big time year, I think everyone wants to see the 5-star Ellis Robinson get on the field. But if Ellis Robinson's not getting on the field this year, I think it's because you're seeing just two really good cornerbacks in Georgia's secondary this year.
I like it. Switching gears here on the Tennessee side of things, there's a lot of options to this question that I thought was interesting. And for me, there's a couple different guys who stand out in terms of who it's a big contract year for. And I think the biggest one is probably Lance Hurd at left tackle. I think as a redshirt sophomore, former 5-star guy, if he has a really big year, because you have Bennett Warren behind him, because you have David Sanders, who is on the right side right now, starting off as a true freshman 5-star, I kind of wonder if he stays there, if that's something he eventually slides over to left tackle. I mean, that's just, you want your premier guy at left tackle, protecting the quarterback's blind side and things like that. You have a 5-star coming in next year in Gabriel Osenda from Baylor, the Baylor school, not Baylor University. And we'll see where he slides in. But you have a lot of blue chippers behind him. And I just kind of wonder with Hurd, if he has a big time year and he grades really well in PFF and kind of has that Darnell Wright 2022 season, that he's got like his build and look is just, he looks like a first round offensive tackle. Like he just looks like that kind of guy that I think if he parlays this year into one of the elite tackles in the sport, that I think he's probably gone. And because on the flip side, if he has a bad year, I just have a hard time Tennessee does 3 years in a row of a because I mean, he's a big time transfer, so he's making a lot of money coming in as a big time plug and play left tackle. Those guys don't grow on trees, and Tennessee was very fortunate to get him because he was just blocked at LSU. Like he was the third 5-star tackle in that room, so he just wasn't able to play because they don't rotate tackles. So I just think it's a big year for him, because either it goes well and he goes pro, I feel like, or it doesn't go well, and I have a hard time believing he gets 3 years at Tennessee. Could be wrong, but I just feel like this is a big contract year for him at left tackle. So a lot of motivation there. And that's good if you're a Tennessee fan. You're like, yeah, our left tackle is motivated. Like he has it's a big year for him, and he's a super talented guy, right bill, what you want at that spot. But for me, I think he fits that bill at that spot. And then on defense, it was kind of interesting because there's not a lot of great answers there. I think a lot of these guys are locked in for at least another year. And then some of the guys who are gone for this year anyway, like I think Jackson Moy and Bryson Eason in the interior are just gonna be good. And I'm not really worried about like, there's not a big contract year question. Like, oh, what are we going to get out of those guys? I'm like, I just think they're going to be really good players in the interior and they'll be fine there. I guess it's Arian Carter, maybe his third year, junior linebacker. Now that Keenan Peely is gone, like he's the veteran leader at that linebacker spot. And he's a super talented guy that Tennessee beat Alabama for 3 years ago. All kinds of great measurables. He flashes. Like Arian Carter has flashed to this point, but man, he's got to put it together, because now Tennessee is at a point in the linebacker room where they're loaded with blue chippers. Like Tennessee has done really well recruiting that room the last 2 cycles. So it's a big year for Arian Carter. I think he's got to be one of the leaders of this team, specifically this defense too. But I'm very curious what Arian Carter looks like for Tennessee, and if he makes that final star-like leap, because Tennessee hasn't had a star linebacker to this point in the Heupel era. And obviously with their history with Al Wilson and everybody, like they've had some big time linebackers come through University of Tennessee, but to this point have not had that because Kenny Pili was good. He just was not able to stay healthy. And then I think Jeremy Banks was a little underrated for Tennessee early on, but still just not a star linebacker. So I don't know. I think it's a big year for Arian Carter because he had big expectations coming in, and he hasn't put it all together for a full year yet. But I think he has the talent to do it.
I hope we didn't have to go all the way back to Al Wilson to find a good linebacker.
I mean, Reeves Maben was right there. There's some guys. I mean, there's AJ Johnson. There've been some good.
Gerard Mayo, can you get a shout
Gerard
out?
Mayo as well. Yeah. I'm just saying, like, Al Wilson's the best. So I was just saying, like, I was throwing out Al Wilson.
It's not linebacker you like over in Athens, Georgia. But yeah, it's solid.
I mean, yeah, Georgia's dominated in the linebacker spot. I'll say that. Georgia of late has been LBU.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, I think I don't have much to add to your points. I think
you've been grinding
left tackle.
You've been grinding the Arian Carter tape.
Left tackle especially is one of those get paid type positions.
Yeah.
So if Lance Hurd has a good year, he could definitely get paid.
College football though, as a whole, Matt Green, Connor O'Gara of Saturday Down South wrote a column this week. There's been a lot going on, so if you missed it, it's an interesting read, but it's something that. Do you know what's funny? Because I saw like Ari Wasserman wrote for On3. I think he was responding to a mailbag question about like who could be this year's Indiana. And I think he even made a note of like the point of that. You can't answer that question because no one saw Indiana coming. So if we're predicting who this year is Indiana in June, then that means the defeat, you know what I mean? It defeats the whole premise of the question. Like you can't really know. Like Indiana kind of came out of nowhere and we didn't think they would go 11-1 in the regular season and that kind of thing. Like that's not something.
Don't overthink it though. Don't overthink it. I think you know what the main thing. If I'm saying who could be 2024 Indiana, I'm saying a team who took care of business against that we were surprised by, that played a weak schedule and kind of took care of business because of it. And you kind of question how legitimate they were the whole time, but they just kept winning games. I'm thinking that's what we're saying when we're talking 2024 Indiana, right?
And that's why I love this Mizzou pick, because Mizzou's schedule is a joke. Like Mizzou's schedule, like you go through it and Connor lays it out in the piece over at Saturday Down South. It's the kind of schedule that people have to look at and be cognizant of, because I don't think Mizzou is a great team this year. I don't think their record is going to match who they actually are. I mean, we'll see what Bo Pribula looks like. He's only been a backup to this point and kind of a Swiss Army. Like, he was basically used as like Taysom Hill at Penn State. So I have no idea what he's going to look like replacing Brady Cook as a full-time guy at Mizzou. I mean, we'll see. They get Damon Wilson, former Georgia edge. Like he'll be over there, but they lose their 5-star, what is his name? Who they got 1 year prior, and he was gone for a year, and he's at Nebraska. I can't remember his name.
Oh yeah, Williams and
Nwaneri. Yeah, Williams Nwaneri. So he's gone, but we'll see. I think the defense should be fine once again. But I look at that, and I'm like, they're still replacing Luther Bird, and they're replacing Brady Cook. But then you look at their schedule, and you're like, man, if there was an Indiana team to go 10-2 in the SEC and to steal a spot over one of those, like, if you're South Carolina, if you're Florida, I think if you're LSU, you're sweating Mizzou, maybe even Tennessee, because this schedule is very nice. And it's going to be hard to see a 10-2 SEC team left out, even with the context of Mizzou's schedule could be an all-time cakewalk here, Matt Green. So what did you make of Connor's column and Mizzou being this year's Indiana?
Yeah, I thought it was great. I hadn't even really thought about Mizzou as any kind of a contender to this point. We've kind of talked about a top 5 or 6 in the SEC. Maybe an Auburn or a Florida or an Oklahoma is like a sleeper. Like we're probably talking about 7 or 8 teams before we're talking about Mizzou. And yeah, if they go 10-2, like there's no scenario where a 10-2 SEC team doesn't get in the college football playoff. So Indiana went 11-1. Like they were legit playing the bottom of the bottom in the SEC. But I guess Indiana had their one game versus Ohio State, and Missouri's got their one versus Alabama. Probably is the most difficult game on the schedule. We still got South Carolina there, so South Carolina can at least play a part in competing with Mizzou or keeping them out. But yeah, some of these other teams with significantly tougher schedules have to be pissed looking at Missouri's schedule.
I mean, 6 home games to start is insane. I don't know how that happens in a schedule. And 0 games versus teams who won 10 games in 2024, every road opponent lost at least 6 games in 2024. I mean, Connor lays it out, man. Like, it's pretty bonkers. I mean, he even has the over-under for all the power conference teams on Mizzou's schedule. The only team over 7.5 is Alabama at 9.5. So let's say they lose to Bama. That's 1. I mean, they avoid everybody. Like, you're going to need maybe a Kansas upset.
And Bama's a home game too. So it's like, I don't know. If they're sitting at 5-0, Faro Field could
by
be
the way, Matt Green.
rocking.
It's interesting you say that. Like, what if South Carolina goes 9-3 but beats Mizzou, and Mizzou goes 10-2? Who gets in that scenario?
Say it again. Versus who?
South Carolina finishes 9-3 but beats Mizzou, and Mizzou goes 10-2.
Oh, if they beat Mizzou, I think it'll be easy because the schedule will be so much more difficult for South Carolina. And I think if they have the head-to-head, I think it'll be easy. But 10-2 Mizzou, I guess with a win head-to-head over South Carolina, then it's no question. But yeah, I would say the second most difficult game, you really don't even know, maybe because I guess Alabama and South Carolina are the 2 most difficult games in terms of what the preseason rankings are going to be.
Yeah.
But both of those games are at home, so it really just depends on. I mean, A&M obviously could be up there too, but it really just depends on how good Alabama or how good Auburn or Oklahoma are in terms of what their toughest road game is. Because I mean, those 2 teams were both 6-win teams a year ago, so they're both kind of dark horses. If they're 6-win teams again this year, then Missouri might not have any tough games on the road.
Yeah,
no disrespect to Arkansas.
I think you and I can agree. SEC fans, you need to root against
or
Mizzou
Vandy
this year. You need to root against Mizzou because I don't think Mizzou is going to be a CFP serious contender, but the schedule is going to put them in this conversation. We've got to root against Mizzou. Kansas,
I mean, are they like a clear favorite to beat Kansas? Like,
Kansas is a wild card, man. You have no idea what you're getting week to week. And is Jalen Daniels healthy? Like, he hasn't been consistently healthy ever at KU. So I don't know.
In the border war, are they have they been playing that every year?
No,
or is that
it's
new?
back.
Are
I
they
think this is the
bringing
first
that
time it's
back?
been back for a while.
This has been back for a while?
No, I'm saying this is the first time it's been back in a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's nice to see it the border war back early on. So maybe that means something, a little something to Kansas. And they show up in that.
When are they playing that? Because it needs to be in a cold time. I need to see people.
That's
in
week
hoodies.
2.
Ugh. I guess you just take it because it's back, but
yeah, I mean it's better than not having it.
That's true. Call it Matt. Your CFB bold prediction of the week, my friend, is what?
This might be the boldest of all bold predictions because I'm kind of banking on humanity here and just people overall.
Right.
But I don't think there will be a real argument for anyone that gets left out of the college football playoff this year. I think it's going to be like almost argument free. Like last year, think about last year, if SMU doesn't win, or if Clemson doesn't beat SMU in the ACC championship, the ACC is pretty clean. If they get SMU in, and then we're getting one more at large spot, and it's probably Alabama. I mean, I guess rankings wise, it was Alabama. They were the next team that got left out. If Alabama is the one that gets in, I guess you have an argument. I mean, Alabama didn't play Ole Miss, and they beat South Carolina. So Ole Miss, there's an argument of people saying, Ole Miss, when they're at their best, and I was one of the people that said it, when they were at their best, they seemed as good as anyone in college football. So they were a team people were kind of arguing for, but their resume was just 3 bad losses. It was an easy team to argue against. And I think if Alabama would have gotten in, we may have had South Carolina was a hot team that had some hype too, but Alabama did beat them head to head. So I think minus that ACC championship a year ago, I don't think there have been much arguments from anybody. And I think we're going to see that next year. I think they're going to be maybe a 3-loss team or 2 makes it. But I think it's just going to be kind of obvious. I think we're going to have less drama in terms of just maybe the ACC has 2 1-loss teams in the ACC championship. And it's obvious they're both going to get in or I think it's going to be a cleaner year this year.
I like that. I mean, I think that's definitely possible. You know what I will enjoy is that we don't have to be like, oh, why is Boise or Arizona State in a position to get a bye? Like the reseeding happening this
Yes.
year is very nice because that was exhausting. And I think it was causing people to root against Boise and the Arizona States of the world and to be mad at them. And it's like, look, we're not doing that. It's just we're top 4, gets a bye, and that's what we're doing. Like I think that will be a nice welcoming discussion point as we get towards the end of the year, is that we know that it's just going to be top 4. And I don't think there's going to be a big like, oh, who gets in the top 4? Someone's going to get squeezed out of the top 4. I think I have a hard time believing that's going to be controversial. But I will say I kind of disagree on if there's going to be any pushback on who gets those final spots, because I think the SEC in particular, there's going to be 3 definites where like right now I would say my 3 guarantees, I shouldn't even say guarantees, my 3 predictions that I feel pretty confident about is Georgia, Texas, and Alabama getting in the CFP this year. I think all 3 win 10 plus games and are safe. But I do think what's good, my prediction, Matt Green, I'll just go ahead and say it here. I think it's either Mizzou or maybe South Carolina, maybe I'm trying to think who else, like an Auburn or something. LSU. I don't know. Somebody who has a weaker schedule in the SEC gets to 10-2, and Florida with the toughest schedule in the country potentially goes 9-3. And there's debate as to where you put Florida with their 9-3 season, and knowing that we like looking at it at the end being like, Florida is objectively a better team and more dangerous in the field than Mizzou. But Mizzou went 10-2. They don't play Florida. I could see a scenario like that playing out. Like I think a team like Florida, because I'm not a big believer in Oklahoma. I think people are way too bullish on Oklahoma, who actually have a better schedule, or worse schedule, I should say, than Florida. Next season being like a dark horse CFP team. I think it's Florida. Like, I think Florida, there's a lot more. I mean, we have no idea what John Mateer is going to look like in SEC play. We know what DJ Lagway looks like in SEC play as a true freshman. Like, if he's healthy, I mean, they went 6-1 this past year with DJ as a starter. So, I don't know. I think Florida is the one that I'm watching come bowl CFP season. Is like, what does the committee do with a 9-3 potentially Florida team with maybe the hardest schedule in college football? Do they take a 10-2 Big Ten team over them? Do they take a additional 11-1 ACC team over them? That's what I'm saying. Like, I think Florida is in an interesting spot down the stretch.
Yeah, that should be the I don't know, the asterisk next to my bold prediction, that if anyone is upset, it's 100% going to be an SEC school.
Yes.
Like that's, I think, the biggest beefs. Like Miami kind of blew it. They had an argument last year, but
you blew it against Syracuse. Like,
they
no one
knew they
bad.
blew it. They weren't really arguing that hard. South Carolina, Ole Miss, and Bama, they were arguing a lot near the end there. But I think, I don't know, it's at 9-3. I feel like everyone right now agrees at 9-3. Oh, Florida's definitely a top 12 team. But then it's just when it happens, and you're like, yeah, but you know, Illinois did go 11-1 with no wins over top 20 teams or something like that. But it's just, you can't argue. You can only argue the record, or excuse me. You can only argue the strength of schedule so much. At the end of the day, they basically rank records. So it's, I don't know. The fact that we've at least laid the groundwork early in the year. Like, I feel like people have nonstop talked about Florida's schedule for like the last 2 seasons now. Maybe they're the one that does get that benefit of the doubt, but I don't know. I'll believe it when I see it. I think a lot of it comes down to timing, and that's what in Conor O'Gara's article talking about Missouri, that's the biggest thing, is if you can start 5-0, 6-0, and just put up big numbers against bad teams or something, you can at least start to get hype for yourself. And so when you do drop some of those games at some point later in the year, you dropped them when you're number 12, and then you went to 16, and you know, you didn't have to work your way up with a big time game like week 2 or week 3 of the season. So I mean, South Carolina is a big game for sure, but it's not Alabama, I guess I'll say. But that could be the biggest benefit that they have. But yeah, I mean, right now I would take South Carolina to beat Missouri, but you know, who knows going on the road in the SEC.
I like it. 2025 quarterback breakout candidate. I want to do this throughout because there's going to be some quarterback breakouts. I want to call my shot, and then we'll circle back in a year how many of these were hits for me. My first one, Matt Green, Dylan Lonergan, Brookwood High School alumni, former 4-star, was caught behind a bunch of talented blue chippers at Alabama. He was originally a Saban guy, dual sport player at Mizzou, at Brookwood, baseball, football player, has a crazy like deep ball bomb, man. Like if you look at his high school like bombs, like Dylan Lonergan, I remember talking to his coach at the time, Coach Jones, about Dylan, and I mean, I think he's got some special tools as a QB1 in this sport. I think he's got a high ceiling, and I feel like it was last spring where he was turning some heads, if I remember correctly. He was generating some buzz even in the first spring with Kalen DeBoer. I am very bullish because I think Boston College, hey, did you see they're the first New Balance football school officially this week? So that is going to be interesting to see what those unis, and just seeing New Balance on merch for college football team is going to look weird, but that is neither here nor there. I am very bullish on Dylan Lonergan. I think Bill O'Brien, he's kind of forgotten. It's just weird that he's just up there in BC because BC has just been irrelevant for a long time. I guess basically since Matt Ryan, BC has just been really irrelevant. I mean, you obviously have the Flutie years, and they've had their highs, and they've had some big time quarterbacks like Flutie and Matt Ryan over a 25-30 year stretch. I mean, that's still pretty good. Those are two big time NFL guys. But I do think that is someone to keep an eye on, because I think people are assuming it's going to be James who took over for Castellanos down the stretch last year. And I was listening to Cover 3 summer school with Bud Elliott, and he was talking to the BC guy, and he was talking about like it's not a sure thing that it's not going to be Lonergan. And I just think he's going to be really good. And part of what people forget is it was Bill O'Brien who was OC with Bryce Young when he was putting up bonkers numbers, won a Heisman. Like that was a Bill O'Brien coached offense, sir. And I think Bill O'Brien was cooking at Alabama, and obviously did a good job with Deshaun Watson in the NFL with the Houston Texans early on. He's a great offensive mind. Like Bill O'Brien he knows how to coach quarterbacks, and I think he generated a lot of buzz. Remember, it was like the Jalen Milroe controversy. I think, what was it? He didn't like see him as a quarterback or something. That whole argument. It was like, I think that
there was something that some reason that Alabama fans didn't like Bill O'Brien as an
and I think it had to do with Milroe. I could be wrong, but look, Bill O'Brien knows quarterbacks. He's a really good OC. I think he's a really good offensive mind, and I just think it's a sneaky great landing spot for Lonergan. And to follow O'Brien as a Alabama transfer out to BC, the competition obviously not going to be the same. If he wins that job, which I think he will, I think he's going to be good. Like the BC was not a dumpster fire last year. Bill O'Brien's got that thing humming a little bit better. Like Jeff Hafley couldn't turn the corner there. Bill O'Brien, I think, is going to turn the corner. Like the ACC is pretty volatile outside of the top with Clemson and Miami. I think there's a lot of room for BC to surprise some folks. And don't be surprised if Dylan Lonergan bursts onto the scene, maybe like a Kevin Jennings type deal at SMU a year ago. And we're all looking at Lonergan numbers and like what he's able to do at BC with Bill O'Brien. I think that could be a great QB connection, a QB coach connection. So I'm calling my shot that Dylan Lonergan is going to be a name that a lot of folks are talking about this fall in college football. Like, oh, who's that? Oh, he's a 4-star at Alabama, transferred up, reunites with Bill O'Brien. And yeah, I'm buying the Lonergan stock.
Yeah, I can respect that. That's a bold take. That's a hot take right there for sure. I'm gonna go to Oxford, Mississippi, sir, and I'm gonna go with Austin Simmons. I think Lane Kiffin, not to catch a stray here over in Knoxville. I think Lane Kiffin is the guy that people talk about Josh Heupel being. Like, I think he's the guy that you can plug in the quarterback and it doesn't really matter who it is. Lane Kiffin's going to get the absolute best out of him. I think you've seen a couple years. I like Heupel as a coach, and he's a good offensive mind, but we've seen a couple years in a row where, quarterback play is kind of whatever. Like, I was never a big Matt Corral guy, but put up huge numbers in Lane Kiffin's system. Like Jackson Dart, I kind of wasn't sure about coming out from USC. Put up huge numbers in Lane Kiffin's system, turns himself into a first-round pick. Like, I think Lane Kiffin made Matt Corral a second-round pick. Matt Corral's actual ability put him in the UFL. I think that's where he is now, or XFL. But I think Lane Kiffin is just that good. Maybe I'm a Georgia fan. I'm biased by the one drive where Austin Simmons just came in after Georgia knocked Jackson Dart out of the game and just drove right down the field, and things were really easy. And then it was a blowout from that point on a year ago. But I think Austin Simmons in Lane Kiffin's offense, I just think Ole Miss is going to not miss a beat. They're going to be exactly what they were. And we know, similar to Josh Heupel as well, they always have an identity of running the football to go with this quarterback that's putting up numbers. So I think Austin Simmons is going to have a huge year in Ole Miss and be thought of as maybe first team All SEC quarterback by a lot of people.
That's interesting. I mean, I could see that. I just think I don't think the Heupel stray was necessary with the Kiffin because I'm pro Kiffin. Like, I'm a big defender of his offense and what he's been able to build at Ole Miss. And we're talking about, like, I just don't think people understand like how insane it is what Kiffin's built sustainably at Ole Miss, like the history there and just how hard it is to win consistently at Ole Miss. And like you said, whether it's Matt Corral, Jackson Dart, Austin Simmons, we'll see. Like you said, they drove right down the field, even without Jackson Dart, against Georgia, and touchdown drive to keep them in that game early. Yeah, I think Austin Simmons is definitely interesting, but we also haven't seen, like, you have a transfer guy, so he's an in-house guy. I think he's still super young. I think he enrolled at Ole Miss like as I want to say a junior, like going into a senior year. I think he was a year early. I think he was an early enrollee. Like, he's still like 19, maybe. I think he's super young, but he's been on campus for a while. I remember reading that story. Like, Austin Simmons, I think he's like also graduating early. Like, he's a super impressive guy. Yeah, he's 19, but he's been there for a while. And I think he was obviously a dual sport guy playing baseball early on at Ole Miss. So he's fascinating. Yeah, he's in the 2023 class and he's 19 years old. So yeah, he got there super early. So yeah, I mean, you are going to have him for several years if he's the right guy. Southpaw, lefty. So yeah, it's someone that you can build around, right? Like, he's I think it's gonna be fascinating to see what Austin Simmons is. But I'm not betting it's a Lane Kiffin quarterback. If Lane Kiffin thinks it's Austin Simmons is the guy, that means he's a big believer, because Kiffin is definitely the portal king. And if he doesn't go in the portal to replace Dart, then he must have pretty strong inclination that Austin Simmons is going to be able to handle this and be quarterback one for the foreseeable future.
Now, is Ole Miss a Indiana potential type of team as well this year? I mean, have you looked at their schedule? Like, it's not exactly.
Well, hold on. There's two parts.
Crazy.
We need to clarify this too a little bit, because Indiana, part of it is not just that Indiana had a great schedule. Part of it was that we knew that Indiana was not legit. Like, we knew that Indiana couldn't run the gauntlet even with the schedule. So it was not that.
What do you mean? They went 11-1.
Huh?
They went 11-1 with that schedule.
Right, but they got crushed by the one good team they played in Ohio State. And we all knew that Indiana wasn't running the gauntlet come CFP time. You put Ole Miss in the gauntlet, they can run Ole Miss is still, like, they're losing a lot of NFL talent here, but I mean, they still did really well in the portal again. There's still a lot of premier playmakers on this roster. Like, I think their defensive line, their defense is going to be pretty good again. Like, I think Ole Miss could absolutely, if they get to the playoff as a 10-2 type team, they can win multiple rounds. I didn't think Indiana could win multiple rounds. Like, Indiana did not feel like a top 10, top 15 team last year, even as they were going 11-1. Ole Miss, if they go 10-2, I think for us will feel like a top 15 team. So you're saying,
so your criteria is that they're definitely not winning a playoff game.
Yes.
Is part of it.
Or like, you go in, they are not winning. They're not making the Final Four. They're not winning in the national title. They're not in that. Like, it's just, it feels like a wasted spot, but you have to put them in because of their record.
But I could see Ole Miss just being a team that's a little overrated if they're 10-2 and they lost to Georgia and LSU or something like that. Like, and maybe those are the two best teams you played. I mean, they still got Florida, they still got South Carolina, Oklahoma on there. So it could be a year where you have 2 ranked teams, or you could have like 5 ranked teams. It's like, some of those teams you don't really know what they're going to be this year. But I don't know. I think last year they didn't not get in because of their schedule, which I think was a little weaker last year. It was really the game versus Georgia was the only kind of, notch they had. And the South Carolina win looked a lot better because they blew out South Carolina after South Carolina got hot. But I just think the reason they didn't get in the playoff was because they didn't take care of business against the weak opponents. Lose to Kentucky, lose to Florida, LSU. Hard to say. In Death Valley is a weak opponent, but was that the game that went to overtime? They like controlled the whole game, I think, right? And then LSU, yes, they took their first lead, I want to say, in overtime to win the game. like the Pacers the other night,
Yes.
something like that. But yeah, it was regardless, they didn't get it done versus teams that they were favored against, and so that's kind of been the criticism of Lane Kiffin now. Is it's like, okay, he was the guy who beat all the good teams, but didn't lose to Alabama, but just lost to Alabama or whoever. Didn't have to play Alabama, and then they lose. Now they're losing to teams that they should beat. So 2024 is going to be, or 2025 is going to be a really interesting year for kind of like you're talking sustainability. Like it has been, more sustainable than Ole Miss typically, but I still don't think we know how sustainable it is to go to the portal as much as someone like Ole Miss is doing it. So it will be interesting to see what they do in 2025.
But I mean, they're still recruiting at a pretty good level. I mean, what did Ole Miss do recruiting wise this past cycle? I think they were top 15, if I remember correctly.
Were they? I thought they were like 20 something.
Which
sounds good until you realize 20 something's like 14th.
They were 16th
or 16th. Okay.
Yeah. And 10 4-stars, 1 5-star.
But 16th is also what? 10th, 11th in the SEC or something like that?
I'll do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's tough. It's tough to hang out at the ninth most talented team in your conference.
That's true. Lots of Clemson natty love here. I'm seeing Matt Green. I know Josh Pate did the formula for NFL draft picks, and Clemson's gonna have a lot. Clemson's loaded with Woods and Klubnik and company. Like they are loaded up on NFL draft. AJ Terrell's brother. Like they have a lot of dudes. Like a lot of dudes. They're retaining and returning a lot of guys. But Matt Green, I ask you, as a longtime CFB guy, and knowing where this sport is going, knowing the power and dominance of the Power 2 to this point. Big Ten's won back-to-back natties. Before that, it was an SEC run. We haven't seen a non-Power 2 team win a national title since Clemson. And the sport feels completely different than when Clemson was winning national titles with Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson. I ask you, sir, when you're seeing all this Clemson love and you're seeing people put Clemson as the national champion, as a team that's going to win multiple playoff games against SEC and Big Ten teams, as an ACC school, as loaded as they are at the top, do you really believe that we'll ever see a non-Power 2 team win a title again in this sport?
Well, it really depends on, what these conferences become, because I mean, you look at if you're just talking historically, or may not even historically, but recent history, Big Ten and SEC schools, like the only schools outside of that to win championships are USC, who's now in the Big Ten, is Texas and Oklahoma, who are now in the SEC. So they're also kind of taking some of these teams and making them part of their club. So you're kind of only left with the Big 12 and the ACC as legitimate contenders. And, I think it really comes down to Clemson and Florida State and Miami, right? Like, I don't know. I mean, I guess, are we including Notre Dame?
Yeah, we got to include Notre Dame.
Yeah, but I think if you could include Notre Dame, those odds get, I think, a little bit better. Because
let's take them out. Now that you say that, I'm like, I mean, they kind of play an ACC schedule, but they kind of don't. I don't know. I don't know what to do with Notre Dame.
Yeah, because I don't know who is the national champion contender for a foreseeable future in the Big 12, just as a program. Like I would have told you, I would have said Oklahoma State the day that Oklahoma and Texas were leaving. And then they just go and have they win 3 games last year? Just awful. I thought they were going to be the team that was the most well-positioned to take over the Big 12. There's not really that huge brand. I mean, that's part of why they got left behind by the other conferences that wanted the bigger brands. But like Arizona State, like that's the team that's like hot right now. Like Utah is a team that's been consistently good, who we kind of thought was going to go into a weaker Big 12 and take care of business, and they really didn't. Maybe it's Colorado and Dion become this team, but I have my doubts about that. It really feels like Miami, Clemson, and Florida State are like the only options.
Well, you didn't say the 2 teams that I would actually throw out of the Big 12.
Oh, who's that?
SMU and Texas Tech.
Okay,
like if there were 2 teams like in this era, but now that the House settlement passed, like I don't know what kind of teeth that SMU and Texas Tech have, and what the kind of booster money that they've plugged in. I mean, SMU's been motivated, man. Like
So
they're
why
spending.
is the house settlement bad for SMU and Texas Tech?
I mean, if you have a cap and you're doing 20.5 million for, and you have to distribute that, and everyone's quote unquote distributing it close to the same way, and with football, men and women's basketball, baseball, all that kind of stuff. Like, we'll see how much, like, because now with Deloitte and the NIL Go or whatever it's called, they're gonna have to stand up. Like, you're gonna have to, there's gonna have to be a process. You can't just, like, the Texas Tech was really, really active in the portal. So all those NIL deals that teams were doing before the settlement went into effect here, like, it's going to be undergoing more scrutiny. So a team like where Texas Tech has that billionaire who's involved now with the future of college athletics, and was in the he was in the group with Saban, right? Like, it was him and I forgot his name. It's 2 C letters. I forgot his name. But big.
And if you're a booster, you can't also pay players, essentially, right?
Well, I don't. That's the thing, is like we're going to see, like, the
set
NIL
up
Go
super
part of it.
PAC
Like, it
shell
has to go
company to pay
through.
'em.
Well, it has to go through the Deloitte thing, where it has to, if it's like if it's an accurate number, if it fairly reflects the value, that kind of thing. So we have no idea how, because remember that study that came out that like something like 70% of NIL deals that went through over the last couple of years wouldn't have gone through the new model, or whatever it is. So I don't know. My broader point is that, like, in the wild west of college football that we've seen the last couple of years, if you gave Texas Tech and SMU like a couple more years of that, I mean, look at Texas Tech in softball. They just went to the national championship game this week, and they signed the biggest transfer portal addition. I mean, she's been very open about what she's made coming to Texas Tech from Stanford. So if you were to tell me that Texas Tech and SMU went all out for like a 2 to 3 year period pre-house settlement, I wouldn't surprise me if they had the roster to maybe do it if they spent enough, because I think they had the juice. The other schools, I just don't know if they have the juice, but we'll see what it looks like in the post-house world.
Yeah, we didn't even name a team that got to a national championship, and TCU.
They just feel like they're behind.
They're the most recent team to even get to the championship game. That's not part of.
We also saw them in a championship game, and it went really, really bad.
It wasn't great. But I just don't know how they're going to get away with the fair market value thing. Like,
that's my point.
The NCAA like loses like basically every antitrust lawsuit that they get matched up with. So if this Joe Schmo car dealership thinks 30 seconds of Brock Bowers' time is worth this amount of money, like, who's to say that he's wrong? You know,
well, that's why people assume that this is going back to court, where it's like you can't tell that guy in that business if he wants to pay Gunnar Stockton $6 million to do a 30-minute ad or 30-second ad read for television. You can't. That's how much he sees it as value. Like, you can't. I don't know a way around it. And the only way around it is, as Danny White of the AD at Tennessee said to Donnie Plowman, the president, chancellor of UT, of like collective bargaining. Like, that's the only way. It's like a union and like contracts and a CBA, where then it doesn't matter what those NIL deals and all that kind of stuff. Like, the toothpaste is out of the tube. Like, I just don't know how you stop stuff like that. Because again, that's not fair. Like, if a guy, if you're any other college student or any other walk of life, if you're worth what someone's willing to pay you. So if someone wants to throw you an $8 million endorsement deal or whatever, and the Deloitte or whatever says like, oh, that's not fair market value.
We've never done deals like this in the past. Well, he's the first one. This guy's a big time guy. We want to get him to it. We're changing our marketing strategy. Who are you to say?
Yeah, it won't. I have my doubts that it stands up, but we'll see how it goes. I don't know.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. So I feel like your general first reaction is that a team that's basically, I don't know, not to disrespect Texas Tech or SMU, but essentially money is kind of all you're bringing to the table. Like, guys would not be coming here unless they were
money
paid
plus
this
location. I'm saying money and location, because you're in Texas and you have, like, you're near, I mean, SMU's Dallas, Texas Tech has some history there. And I don't know. I think being in Texas with so many good players already, that I think that helps. Like, I think that it's not just money, it's also location.
So what was it? $13 million, right? Is what, like, supposedly that's what they can pay their team, each school. So I feel like you could either have two theories. Either this makes it a lot better for now Arkansas and Ole Miss trying to compete with Georgia and Alabama on a yearly basis because they can only pay their guys a certain amount and we can pay our guys the same amount. But I think more people are interpreting this as, no, now that the money's back on like even playing field, if you're a have not, you can't pretend to be one of the haves. Like, and it's kind of going to help the teams that have the prestige and the facilities and everything, because they're not going to be getting, they were all of a sudden they were getting outbid for a couple of recruits. And well, does this kind of restore order and kind of make it the big time programs are the most big time powerful programs, like clearly again? You know what I'm saying? Like, does this help out the big guys more than the little guys?
TBD.
Yeah. And when I say little guy, not even little guy, like I'm talking South Carolina compared to Alabama, you know?
Well, it depends on like the part of it
maybe,
is like,
maybe even consider Tennessee a little guy because they weren't having as much success. But once they were able to throw a bunch of money in there, okay, now we're back at the table. You know what I mean? But
where is Tony Reale when you need him? I need the mute button. I need to minus 10 points for Matt Green.
But you know what
little
I mean?
guy out for
prior
Tennessee
to
here.
2021, Tennessee,
but they've never been. No. Hold on. Tennessee has never. They've struggled to get their ducks in a row the last decade and wandering the wilderness before Heupel came in. But they were not. They always had the resources. They were always a sleeping giant. South Carolina has no football history of being a sleeping giant. Like,
but that's why I'm not even saying the little guy. I'm saying just the programs that are been near in the bottom of the conference, because Tennessee was at the bottom of the conference for several years,
right?
You know, but they now that money is like more powerful than it was in previous years. It's like, well, we got money, so that can make
also
Tennessee
location and history and things like that. They're close to North Carolina, close to Georgia. Like, they're in a good spot.
Of course,
like, there are other reasons.
But I mean, you look at a Michigan too. Like, Michigan has not recruited that well nationally prior to like the last 5 years or so. Like, they weren't signing consistently top 10 classes in the 20 teens, you know. But now that the money is back in it, I think Michigan.
I mean, that's how they got. I mean, Bryce Underwood, the late flip. Everyone, we don't have to relitigate that story, but I mean,
exactly. Like, they got billionaires just throwing money at recruits and stuff. So, like, that sort of thing, I don't think is going to like. That's essentially what this house settlement is to try to prevent. Right? Is these guys, these mega donors, from just throwing money at recruits?
I would assume, but man, we'll see if that.
Good luck doing that.
Yeah. Good luck, but we shall see.
We got off on a tangent there. Weren't we talking about Clemson? I forgot there.
Well, I mean,
we needed to talk about the house settlement.
But I mean, that is part of the conversation of just like, I don't know. I would bet against it. I would bet against Clemson winning a national title this year, even with the draft picks and everything else, because we just haven't seen it. We haven't seen a non-Power 2 team win in this new era of college football, and especially with the expanded postseason. What if they have a couple of injuries? Like, they're very top heavy. Clemson, if they stay healthy, they're right there. But I don't think they're going to get there. I don't think a non-Power 2 team is going to be able to win a national title with this format.
I mean, if they sustain injuries in the playoffs, like obviously that could hurt, but they might be easier to sustain some injuries in the regular season.
Oh, for sure. I'm just saying, like, if they lose a couple key guys, like I don't think they have the depth.
But I mean, you can still get a top 4 seed, like being Clemson.
Oh, for sure. Clemson is almost like a shoe-in for top 4, right? Like,
they go 12-1, win the ACC. They're a top 4 seed, easy. So I mean, they can still be that. So I think they didn't change anything with the second round playoff games, did they? With the new seed, they only changed the seeding. We're not getting home games. We're still only getting one round of home games.
Yeah, we won't know if we're going to do multiple rounds of home games until the new playoff system goes in, which I assume we'll have more home games.
I will only accept expanded playoffs if we're like expanding the number of home games.
I think that's possible. I think that's in play. Well, you know what I will also say that's gotten kind of lost in the shuffle here, that TNT Sports is getting more CFP games, and those were terrible last year. They don't have broadcasters. Like, I don't know, like, I'm okay with TNT getting it, but then we need to be able to allow Gus Johnson and Joel Klatt to do college football playoff games. Like, it's actually insane that we don't have the best of the best available. Like, TNT CFP games is insane. Like, it's insane.
I want to get Ernie and Chuck on the college football playoff.
No, you don't. No. Like,
I want the best weird that they do NCAA tournament coverage after like not talking college football or college basketball the whole year.
Yeah. I don't know. I would like the best college football announcers to be calling college football playoff games. Like the NFL. Like the NFL splits it up. Like Fox gets some, CBS gets some, NBC gets some. Like the best of the best still get to call these games. Like, and then you rotate Super Bowl, obviously, but like, no, I don't love that TNT and True TV or whatever is still getting CFP. It feels, no offense to True TV, but it just feels not a big deal to have CFP games on True TV.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Like SMU Penn State did not feel like a playoff
Jokers
game,
comes
right?
on.
There was no juice to Penn State SMU.
Yeah, there really wasn't. And it's funny I'll accept you making this rant. It's funny when I hear Joel Klatt make this rant. It's like, yeah, bro, we know who you're arguing for. You're literally arguing for you and Gus Johnson to get better games. I'm sorry,
but they should. He is
it's
right.
Just funny when you're arguing for yourself. It's just kind of funny.
Yeah. Final thing here, we'll wrap up here tonight, Matt Green. Buy or sell. This is something that I think is going to be really fascinating, and Georgia fans, I think, are going to be very invested in this fall. Gunnar Stockton will have Carson Beck will have a better season than Gunnar Stockton this year. Are you buying or selling that?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. Do we have an update on Carson Beck's health or anything?
Yeah, I mean, he's ready to go. Like Carson Beck's
ready to go?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. I think a lot of Georgia fans have convinced themselves that because Gunnar Stockton is the opposite of Carson Beck as a person, that he will be the opposite of him as a player, I guess. And it's cool that he has like a 1985 truck and he doesn't lock it, I guess. And, he doesn't have social media. I don't know. He probably has a flip phone or something. But I don't know. I think when I look at Gunnar Stockton, I don't think Gunnar Stockton has to be better than Carson Beck was last year for Georgia to be better than they were last year, just because I think it's a lot of what Georgia does is going to come down to how good the weapons are on offense this year. But in terms of just comparing these guys, like, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Carson Beck is putting up numbers close to Cam Ward put up a year ago. Not saying he's as good as Cam Ward, but we just kind of got done talking about how much weaker the ACC is than the SEC and the Big Ten, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if Miami's sitting at 10-2, 11-1 again this year, and Carson Beck's throwing. I don't even know what Cam Ward's numbers ended up being last year. I don't know if we can pull them up, but
I mean, they were the number one offense.
I mean, if he threw 35 touchdowns and eight or nine interceptions or something like that.
They were number 2 in passing plays. They had 76 20-plus yard plays, 171. Like, they were just tops in all the big plays through the air. Like, they were a big play machine.
So let me see here. So he had 39 touchdowns, 7 picks. Like, if he did something like that wouldn't shock me. Like, maybe he doesn't, maybe the 4,000 yards, 67%. Like, if you look at what Carson Beck did last year, like I think he was 70% in 2023 or something. Let me pull up Carson Beck. He completed 65% of his passes last year on a team that led the nation in drops. So he probably completes 70%. Yeah, he completed 72%, and just under 4,000 yards in 2023. So, I mean, if I wouldn't be shocked if he put up exactly the numbers he put up for Georgia in 2023. If he does that for Miami, that might be a better season. Throwing 4,000 yards, 24 touchdowns, and 6 picks. Like that, if he does that, that's probably better than what Gunnar Stockton's going to do in Georgia's offense. But we're judging guys' seasons? Are we judging quarterbacks based on wins and that kind of stuff? Or are we gonna kind of being honest with ourselves how good of a season they're having? I mean, right now, if I'm a Georgia fan, I don't feel this way because I think there was something, extracurricular going on with Carson Beck. Like maybe he didn't vibe with the team or something. Maybe there was some sort of kind of personality thing going on and it just wasn't great vibes. It's hard to say that when it was a team that really didn't seem like they were that good and they still won the SEC championship. They battled every week. So it's hard to say they were a team that didn't have a good culture a year ago, even though, I don't know, there's kind of talks like that was a thing a year ago. So maybe if you're Georgia, you just want to move on and have a clean slate. But if I'm just a random person starting a college football program and I have my choice between one of these guys as a quarterback, I'm probably going to take Carson Beck right now, assuming he's healthy.
Yeah, and like we'll see on all that front, but it seems like things are trending in the right direction there. I mean, you also get CJ Daniels, who transfers in from LSU as his wide receiver 1, Malachi Tony, and then the kid from BYU, the do it all kid for BYU. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he transfers in. Fletcher at running back, Francis Mauigoa, one of the best left tackles in college football. You get Jackson Cantwell in there as well going for. Oh, that'll be next year.
No, he's a senior.
Yeah, that's 26. Yeah, excuse me. But you still have Francis Mauigoa, who's projected to be a first-round tackle next year, and I think that Shannon Dawson's one of the best offensive coordinators in the sport. So to your point, I think Carson Beck, is in a good position to have a really good final year and bounce back. I mean, he was the preseason number 1 overall pick coming into last year, and I think if he's healthy, I think he's going to have a really good final bounce back year for the Canes. And Georgia doesn't need Gunnar Stockton to be elite to get to where they want to go. They need to be good. They also don't have the play caller that they had years ago. It's not their fault. They didn't fire Todd Monken. Todd Monken moved on to the NFL, but Bobo, it's a big year for Bobo because I think Georgia fans were pretty unfairly or not. Georgia fans are going to be monitoring. It is interesting. I guess I say that, but anecdotally, but maybe not because Jared Curtis is in the boat. So you're like, and Bobo's a big reason that Jared Curtis is in the boat. So, I mean,
well, and I think enough Georgia fans disliked him so much that it's not like a Justin Fields that you're watching Ohio State, hate watching him, hoping he fails or something. It's maybe it is the same thing, but you're it's more of a good riddance from a lot of Georgia fans for some reason. I don't know why. I don't really look at him as a transfer because he already declared for the draft. So he wasn't going to play another year at Georgia anyway. So he's almost transferring from the NFL to Miami. But so I don't necessarily have I do wish he was still Georgia's quarterback because I think we'd have, more of a clear understanding of who the of what we're getting out of our quarterback. But yeah, Gunnar Stockton, it's going to be a lot of the other things that are in the offense that I think are going to determine how successful Georgia is this year. But Gunnar Stockton obviously goes a long way with that too.
Matt Green, what can the folks check out from you over at Georgia Voice of College Football this week?
Oh yeah, man, we'll continue our countdown with the college football to the Georgia football season. So I think we're 82 days away right now. So we'll come up with our best Georgia player to come up with 81 days left in the season. Don't want to give it away right now, but yeah, and then we'll be talking Georgia football, recruiting, all that kind of things. So tune in 8:00 on Tuesday, Georgia Voice of College Football.
I love it. Go subscribe if you're a Georgia fan today and keep up with Matt and all the great work he's doing over there on that channel as well. Matt, thank you as always, my friend, and I'll talk to you again next week.
Yes, sir.
Nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas Podcast. Hell yeah.